Bam. There is the trailer. There is the man behind this Lightyear. Kyle Purnell, how the hell are you, man? Good to see you out there.
Best day of my life. I'm doing well, man. I was saying before it was kind of a rough day at work, and this is what's getting me through it. So I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we're so thankful for your time. Obviously, you do have a family. You're a family man, and you also, as you mentioned, the day job, but also you find time amongst all those things to create more and more amazing magic. And this is no exception. I absolutely love this thing, and I know that you made it your mission to create this, and I'll let you tell that story. But um, how the hell did you come up with this? Like, I gotta know more. Let's not get too deep in the origin stories on this thing because everyone does that. But how the hell do you come up with something like this? Like, what's the light bulb moment for you with something
Um,
like Lightyear? This is crazy, man.
yeah, I don't really remember exactly what the inception was, but um, looking back on it, I think probably the biggest source of inspiration was it's an old Jay Sankey trick called Pulp Fiction, the Pulp Fiction deck. Do you remember that?
I sure do. I
Yeah.
absolutely do. Yes, sir.
And it was and it's kind of similar in premise, right? But instead of holes, there were just like these weird shapes that were cut out of each card in the deck.
Yeah.
And then when you square up the deck, it revealed like the two of diamonds or the ace of hearts. Obviously, the big difference here is both of those are forces, right? Which is really cool. Like, but it was a really really cool premise, and I really loved it. But um, and I don't think it was a direct line of influence. I wasn't really necessarily thinking about that trick when I was coming up with it, um, but I guess that moment kind of stuck with me. And um, but then something that I really latch onto is when there is a method kind of like Jay Sankey's trick. It just seems that there was a lot of opportunities missed because the props themselves, I think, lend themselves to a method that would make it not require a force.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I was going with this. And the method itself didn't take that long to figure out. Like I figured out the system in my head pretty quickly. But the thing that took forever was making it go from here to here. Um, and
Cool.
that was a nightmare. I'm glad that thing is over, and now it's a dream come true now.
Well, why don't you tell the guys like the thing you were telling me before this about how this was like your mission? Like there was a thing that
Yeah,
you challenged yourself. What was that? I'm sure they love to hear
I
that.
I love creating magic, right? And one of the things that uh, is typically the case for me is when I create something. It's usually a pretty linear path between like when I get an idea of how it's going to work, and then I just kind of make it happen, and it happens most of the time. That was not the case with this because I knew it was possible, but there were so many roadblocks that happened in the way. For example, because I went into it thinking, oh, this will be easy. I just take a few cards and I punch holes in them, and then I implement my rotational system. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then I'll just punch them again, and then I'll rotate the ones I need to, and I'll punch it again. But the issue here, there's a few issues. One, I don't know if you ever thought about this, but hole punches don't go that far into a card. They only go about an inch and a half or so. Also, they're a lot bigger than the holes that are included in here. So I had to start using, instead of a hole punch, a leather punch and a hammer in order to do it by hand. Um, and that was miserable because then with two young kids, that's they're trying to nap, and here I am. It's not ideal for sure. And then uh, and then but what would happen is I would do it, so I would get the one possible, and then I would do the rotation system, and I would get the two possible, and then I would get the three possible, then I would go back to one just to make sure everything is good. And now it doesn't even look like a one anymore because now there's all these other holes that are punched. and, and it was literally a nightmare. I was telling Luke before this that um, almost quit this so many times because it was so miserable to figure out. And the only thing, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, the only thing that kept me going with this is because I didn't want to die without this being a thing. And so it was just a reminder of my mortality that kept me going, because I knew it was possible, but I just couldn't get it. So it was actually, I was talking with my dad about it, because he can sometimes get me out of funks that I have sometimes. And I was telling him my issue. And to be honest, I forget exactly what he said, but it made me think, oh, what if I get some graph paper? And if I get graph paper, then I can chart out where every hole goes, and that way I have the coordinates where every hole goes. So that way, when I have to punch new holes, I can look at the coordinates and make sure that it's not a coordinate that's already been used, right? And that worked. It was a lot of work, but it did work eventually. And then that's where you get this.
Wow.
So we're good to go now.
So one of the questions I asked you on the way in is something I know a lot of people want to know is this truly any number? And before you answer this, I was gonna let the guys know this too. Kyle told me on the way in he was planning on sharing more information than was expected even from me. So get ready right now to hear some real secrets on what's going on with Lightyear. But let's just jump into the number thing first. It's a pretty popular thing that people have been talking about. Are there any limitations with the numbers? Is it truly a thought of any number that they want? Or are there some parameters? Like there could be some.
There's one parameter, and that parameter is 0. The digit 0 is not built into the system, which is honestly a non-issue. And I'll tell you why. Because one, there's just really easy workarounds. But two, even if you don't want to do a workaround and you just say name a number or write down a number, like a 2-digit number, when you say 2-digit number, there's this mental cadence that kind of comes into people's brains. So like Luke, if I said, name a 2-digit number, you have this cadence that your brain wants to fill in, right? And the cadence goes ba ba ba, right? Yeah. It's like 23, 46, 72, right? 40 doesn't fit that cadence, right? Yeah. And so unless someone was like, unless someone has a number that like means something to them, like 70 or something like that, it's very, very unlikely that someone's going to name a number with a 0 anyway. However, you can easily curb all bets or hedge all bets by saying, hey, I want you to think of a 2-digit number, but to be honest, I need you to make it really interesting. Don't make it an easy or nice sounding number like 50 or 60 or 70. Make it like a weird random 2-digit number. That's all I ask. Okay. So it's a non-issue, but you should know that 0 is not built in.
Okay. But other than that, they truly can name any number from 1 to 99, of course, minus the tens, which is crazy. A lot of people think there must be some equivoque, some kind of magician's force or choice in there, but there's not.
No, it's a 2. Now, I do specify a 2-digit number, right? Which implies that it's any digit 1 through 100, but it's actually any digit 10 through 99.
Right.
Yeah.
So one other question I'm going to get to, and then I'll let you jump into some of the things I know you were interested to share,
sure.
Which is very cool of you. Dwayne wanted to know, what are the tiles made out of? The ones that you receive with your package, what are these guys made out of in here?
That's a really good question. These are made out of black acrylic, and you can see they're pretty thick. They're pretty hefty. So when everything is put together, let me see if I can put this back where it goes. When everything's put together, it's actually about the thickness of a deck of cards, a little thinner. But they're very hefty. They're honestly going to last a lifetime, which I think is the reason why the price point is a little bit higher than one might reasonably expect, because these aren't going to go away anytime soon. And that's it. And they've just came out really, really gorgeous. So yes, they're a nice, thick, sturdy black acrylic.
Nice. All right, cool. And thanks for answering the question. If you guys have any other questions along the way, that's why we're here, to try to break it down and give you all the details that you're looking for. And thanks again to Kyle for his time, for jumping on to do this, So be sure to give him some love as well. So I'll let you kind of now tiptoe into the waters that you were teasing me with earlier, Kyle, about some of the inner workings with this, which is really cool of you. So have at it, man.
Sure. So, so I was telling Luke that my intention here is to not really hold anything back, because I think the value here is not necessarily in a secret that you're learning, but a system that you will be able to implement with custom and precision made tiles. So I have no qualms about sharing kind of the inner workings on how this actually works, so you know exactly what you're getting and how easy. That's funny that just popped up. How easy it actually is to perform, because it is really easy. It's a lot more intuitive than one might reasonably expect. So uh, I'll just kind of run through it here for you guys. It comes with 8 tiles. So intuitively, 4 tiles give you the first digit, and 4 tiles give you the second digit. Okay, so the system that you'll be learning is the same for digit 1 and digit 2. So you just apply it to both stacks. That's it. Okay, so here's 4 cards, and the 4 cards will give you literally any. It's kind of weird to say, but it can make any digit 1 through 9. Okay, and the way you code it is actually really efficient, and I would say it's pretty deceptive too. So if you think of it this way, it's a rotational system that you're going to be getting. It's a rotational system. So there's no flipping, there's no flopping, right? It's all rotating. Okay, so they all start face up and they all end face up. Okay, so it's all about the rotation. So think about it this way: this is A, B, C, and D. Okay, and think about this as home base. Okay, if it's home base and you don't reorient anything, you're going to get a 1. So if I square these up, and I think if I put it up here, you'll be able to see it. Right? Hold on.
Yep.
There it is.
There you go.
Yep. 1. Yeah. Cool. 1. Now, cool. Yeah. So now what you do is you just go down the line. If I need a 2, I rotate A. If I need a 3, I rotate B. If I need a 4, I rotate C. If I need a 5, I rotate D. And I'll explain a little bit more later. So let's say I needed a 2. Well, so home base is 1. So now I just go down the line. If I need a 2, I rotate A. And I square everything up. Oh, hold on, it's this way. And I should have my 2 here.
Dude, what the hell is going on? That is brilliant. Oh my God.
And the same thing here. So if you need a 3, you just go down the line. So home base is 1. This is 2. If I need a 3, I rotate this one. And I square everything up. And again, I think it's right here. You should get your 3. Yep. Right. And so on and so forth. If I need a 4, I rotate C. It goes down. And then you don't do that. Let's see if we can try that again. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so if I need a 4, I go down to A, B, C, turn over this one, and then you should be able to see a 4 here. Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's kind of hard without the phone, but and that's kind of the idea. You're just going to keep going. If you need a 5, then you go. Obviously, home base is 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5 is the bottom one. You turn it over like this. I keep forgetting it's this way, and then you should have your 5. Yep, 5. Yep. All right. So now the question is, what do you do after a 5? Right. Okay. So you go 1. 1 is home base, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's no more for 6. So what do you do? Right? There's no more. Well, intuitively, you go back to the beginning, and now is when you start rotating 2 at a time. Right? So now if you want a 6, you rotate A and B together. Wow. And that's when you get your 6. Wow. Okay. If you need a 7, it's the middle 2. Okay, so the middle 2 you go over here, and that is 7. Should see a 7, yeah.
Yep.
8 is the only one that's a little bit counterintuitive in my opinion, because 8 is not the bottom 2. because you would think it would be, but if you think about it, if the top two is a 6, well, then rotating the bottom two would be the same. It would be put you in the same situation, right? And actually, that's what gives you a 9, because a 9 is just a 6 upside down, right?
Yep.
So an 8 is actually 2 and 4. That's the only kind of counterintuitive one, right? So you turn over this one and turn over this one, and then that's when you get your 8.
I love this comment, Kyle. Do you see the comment?
Pun intended. So thank you for that. So that's it, right? So it's just a rotational system. Now the question is, how do you rotate them deceptively, right? And I don't know how well I can show this to you here. I'll try to put it down so you can see this performing surface here, because the system is the same for both. Now I should say they're also marked on the edge. There's just like a little half hole on each one, almost as if it's still a part of the card, right? But there's a little nick here. And then the next one in this digit set is a nick, but it's a little bit higher. And then this one's a little bit higher, and this one's a little bit higher. So that way, if I put them up, I would see, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but it's a little staircase from upper left to lower right. And so as long as I see this staircase, that way I know that they're not only in the right orientation, but also the right order. And then the second digit is marked on the lower edge. So that way I don't get any of these cards mixed up, because even though they're the same system, this digit is revealed on the left side of the card and this digit is revealed on the right side of the card. So that way they are revealed kind of centered in the middle, instead of having a big space in between the two digits, if that makes sense, right? So you put these here and you are ready to go. So Luke, let's have a little bit of practice. Can you have someone in the comments name a 2-digit number?
Yeah, so you guys go for it. There is probably a 15-second delay, so give me just a moment, Mr. Kyle, while we're doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we'll definitely get the first one to come up. The first one was from Scott Smith, and he said 28. So let's go with the number 28. We'll do that.
So this is how easy it is to code this. So you know what the system is. It's a rotational system, right? So it's going to be under the guise of me just dealing these down to the table, which looks like nothing. But what happens is, as I'm dealing, I'm actually putting them onto a different plane. So this plane is front to back, but I'm going to deal them side to side. So as I'm doing this, if I don't need to rotate one, I lift it up at the upper corner and put it down. If I do need to rotate it, I lift it from the lower corner and put it on its side, right? So if it's 28, so we know the first 4, give me the first digit, so I need a 2. So Luke, do you remember which one do I need to rotate to make a 2?
Is it the second one?
It's not the second one, because remember, home base is 1, right? So if it was a 1, I wouldn't have to do anything. So that means that if I need a 2, now I start going down, and so the first one to rotate is actually a 2.
Okay. I'm with you now. Okay.
So I do need to rotate the first one. So I go from the inner corner. I don't need to rotate any of the other 3 in the first digit, so I go from the outer corner. And for an 8, I don't rotate the first. I do rotate the second. I don't rotate the third, and I do rotate the fourth. And it looks like you do nothing, but now this is coded 28.
Shut up. There's no way.
So now I'll try to show it to you. Let me bring up my white screen here. Okay. Screenshots. Okay. So I have just a white screen here that shows through the holes. So now I just take the first 4, put them here, the second 4, put them here, and then hopefully, if you bring it up, you should be able to square them all up, and I'm hoping that it'll make
Oh my 20. God. Yes. Wow, man.
And that's it. Now, here's the really cool part. From this point, what you can do, I rarely do this, to be honest with you, but as a selling point, this is something you can do, and it absolutely works. Because if you find someone you think is going to be a little grabby, and you just have this sneaking suspicion that they might have an idea that you can make more than one number with them, what you can do is take them like this, you spread them out and just kind of sight the middle four, and then you just turn over the middle four and put them back on top. Then with just a quick overhand shuffle, you have just thrown a huge wrench in them. And I kid you not, again, I'm not being hyperbolic here. They will never be able to make one number, let alone realize that any number can be made. Because now the cards from both digits are mixed in, as well as you're flipping and flopping, which remember we said is a no-no when you're trying to do the method. So now that you put in like two major wrenches into it, there's no way that anybody can reverse engineer it, and these are completely examinable.
My mind is blown right now. I'm trying to understand how you can even come up with this. I know you told us how you did, but Jesus, man, this is crazy. There was a question actually, and we're not trying to mess with what you did, Kyle. It's actually a good question.
Yeah.
John Bing wanted to know how easy is it to get them back in order if they do get mixed up or dropped. I think Mr. J. David Tiemann asked that too, because you got into it really quick. You dropped them and just went right back into it. Is it really that easy if you drop them?
It's very easy. So remember, the one set is marked on the side, and the other set is marked on the short edge. So all I have to do is go through each one. Okay, so this is a side mark. This is an edge 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 mark. This is a side mark. Side mark. Side mark. Now I just take one. Now I just look at them this way. Again, you probably wouldn't want to do this in front of a spectator or anything, but it is very easy now. So now I'm looking, and I only see I see a few marks this way, a few marks this way. So I'm going to flip this one so that they're all kind of on the same side, and I flip this one here. So now it's almost ready to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I see that they're almost in the right order, and then all I have to do now is switch these two, and I am ready to go in this one. And then you do the same thing for this one. Again, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but if you were here, you can easily see this guy right here. So I would turn this so it's facing the other ones here. I don't see the other ones here. So again, it's just if you don't see it, then you know you have to flip something or rotate it. So they're all kind of in the same vicinity. And now I see all of them are kind of here. They're just not quite in the right order. Remember, we need to go into a staircase, right? So you just have to make sure it's going from upper left to lower right. And then that is here too. And then this goes here. So we got staircase here and then staircase here, and I'm ready to go again. So, so it might seem like a lot, but remember, as long as you can just get those all together into one corner, then you can just put them back into the order so it goes into a staircase.
First, I want to say thank you for literally going into every detail about how this works. I mean, obviously, as you told me before, you're like, well, you know, someone wants to try to make this themselves, good luck, because it's not it's not that easy. Did have a couple questions coming in on this. Rich has one more from a presentational standpoint. Rich Picone says, when you place the tiles on a spectator's hand, what is your presentation for them to make sense? He loves it, but when you do it, how are you making all of this make sense to a spectator, these tiles and things? Yeah.
What's funny is that was also the part that was so difficult, right? Because most of the stuff I do isn't, well, most of the stuff I do is more organic than this. So, I mean, what are these, right? So there's a bunch of different things that I went through so many different things. I called these like what I call these like galaxy cards, and I said that this is a game that I play with my daughter. We make our own galaxy in the night sky. You know, I went that direction. You could say these are kind of like the old computer punch cards, but the way that I do now is I call these are influence tiles. Right, I'm not a mind. This is what I say to them. I say I'm not a mind reader. I can't read minds, because mind reading really isn't real, right? But what is real is influence. Now, I usually use a kind of a visual aid in order to make sure that the influence is as surefire as possible. Which is why I got these guys. Have you ever seen these before? And of course, they say no. And you say this is a really easy way to program your brain. So I'm just going to show these up to your eyes one at a time. Each just takes a second. And as I'm doing this, hopefully I'm going to program you to make the decision I want you to make. Okay. And I'll just keep going through things like this. I think I got it. And what's fun now is that you don't even have to go into this, right? This is just a ploy now. So what I usually do is I go into another mentalism routine. I said, I actually programmed you a playing card. What playing card do you think I want you to think of? And then they name any playing card, and then you can do like a invisible deck if you want to, or I use the Lynx wallet to kind of take the focus off the tiles and just really solidify that it is just a presentational ploy, and hopefully that they really do believe that this is a way that I can influence them to make the decision. And then I solidify that by being right with the playing card. But then I go into and I say, but as I was showing this to you, and then I go to the next person who's sitting beside them, I said, but you were looking too, weren't you? I didn't even ask you to look, but you were looking, and I said, I wasn't even planning on this, but if you were, I'm curious. I wonder how well this worked, because these are programmed to influence the 8 of clubs or whatever the name, right? But they're also programmed for you to name a certain number, like a 2-digit number under 100. What do you think it is? Then they name it, and then you go through, and then the second revelation is the cards themselves, and I think that's a really nice way to kind of bring it together and bookend it. So that's kind of the way I'm doing it. So I call them influence tiles or influence cards.
Very cool. One question that we did get to earlier, but just to make sure we get it again, how hard is it? Obviously, we went through every detail here. Very easy,
Yeah,
right?
it requires practice, but it's easy to learn. It's a lot easier than I think one might think.
Right.
Yeah, because as long as you realize that 1 is home base, you don't do anything for 1. So if someone names 11, you don't do anything. You're good, right? You're good if someone names 11, right? Yeah, so as long as you know that home base is 1, then you just go down the line. So the first one is actually 2. So if you need a 2, you rotate the first one. If you need a 3, you rotate the second one, and so on and so forth.
Cool. Had a couple more questions coming in. I'll just jump in real quick. Bernardo wanted to know, how many renditions did you go through to get to the final slides? Like how many versions of this, to get to this?
That's a good question. So I started with just a prototype of some big poster board. I mean, not super big, but like maybe slightly less than a jumbo card size. And then I wanted the smaller ones, but I actually didn't originally go for like a really nice set like this because, and this might be coming in the future. I don't know, but this is actually, in my opinion, it's great and I love it, and they did a fantastic job on it. But in my opinion, there's actually a better way to perform it, and I'm glad you asked this question because I think there's a better way, which is if these cards are disposable, right? And you go through a new set each time you perform it. What happens is you can do it, you can show the revelation, and then what's really cool is that so you know how the 2 digits are centralized, right? What you can do then is you can rip off the other ends and then staple the 2 pieces together so they can keep it as a souvenir. But what also happens is because you're ripping them off because when you staple them, you want it to fit in their wallet, right? But when you're doing it, you're also destroying the evidence. So even if they were really curious and they took out the staples, there's literally no way. There's literally no other numbers except the one that they freely
That's
named.
awesome.
But we didn't want to go that direction because I don't know if people would realize the value of that. Because I think in the magic market, people like really nice, high quality things, and they don't necessarily. It's not necessarily on everybody's forefront of their mind how powerful it could be if they got to keep it, right? So eventually, I think we might do like a worker's version of it. I mean, this is definitely something a worker can do, and I do it a lot myself. But specifically or like a souvenir version, I guess is the better way to say it, so people can actually keep the number that they named.
One thing I wanted to point out, just because, so you get your box and then you get the tiles, and one thing I want to say is, don't be scared by this. As you can see, this looks nothing like what Kyle is using, but that's for a very good reason. Kyle, what is that reason?
Yeah, it is because that is protective paper. It doesn't look like protective paper. It's not like the clear stuff that you would expect to be able to take off, but it is protective paper in order to make sure that nothing gets scratched in transit. So yes, it looks ugly when it comes out of the box. Don't fret. Just peel it. It takes a little bit to peel it off, actually. So I would actually go with the where the notches. That is where I found it's a little bit easier to get a little bit of a nick in there, and then you can just pull it off. So it takes a few minutes to get all the papers off, but then you have some really nice acrylic tiles.
Cool.
So
Thank you, sir. Speaking of the tiles themselves, one other quick question coming in from my buddy Dwayne, who I think is having a cigar right now. I'm so jealous. Um, he says, "What do you carry these in? Do you have a special way to carry the tiles that you're using?"
yes, I have a black velvet bag. I just got you just look up black velvet bags on Amazon, and you can get like I don't know, like 50 of them for like $12 or something. They're very inexpensive. It's not necessary though. You can always just wrap a rubber band around them too. That's
Cool.
fine.
All right. Very nice. And that is the nice thing is while they look nice, it's not like you have to make sure that they don't get scratched or anything because it'll still work. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
just
And
nice.
I mean, my set, my personal set, is really kind of scuffed up, but that's okay. It doesn't matter because like I'm saying that these are something that I use to influence people. So clearly I've been using them before. So it makes sense that they're a little bit used, a little bit worn, a little bit scuffed. So
Yeah.
it's not a big deal for me.
And I, it's like I told Kyle earlier. It's like the longer he's in Magic, the the happier we are as magicians because we get to enjoy more and more of your material because it just seems to get better, man. I mean, I really mean that. Like, I love this. Big picture, obviously, is great. Dropped call, all of your other things. I mean, you've got some crazy ideas with money, and just like your visuals are always so weird, but your methods are always so abstract and weird, and that's what's fun. And this is like the epitome of all of that wrapped up in one.
Thank you.
Any other things you want to say about this? I know there's a lot that you've gone over already,
Yeah.
but are there any other specifics or other thoughts or
I,
questions you've seen a lot? You know?
I'll tell you one more cool thing. When I'll say when, not if. When you buy Lightyear, you can hit me up to ask to join the Lightyear Facebook group, and it's very much just started right now. But there is something that Chris James put on here, which is a fantastic idea. Um, and let me see if I can find it here. He, oh yeah. So when he bought his, he actually made a little video clip that kind of progressively shines light through it. So you can already have the tiles squared up, and then the light just kind of shines through. And it'll be kind of hard to show you here, but I'll show you the video clip, which is really, really sweet. So it starts black. So you just play it, right? It starts black, and then,
Oh man. Okay.
right, this, and then it's kind of hard to see directly, but yeah, it's just like two pieces of light here, and then it changes color, changes green. So then the numbers start changing color as it reveals. Really, really cool. So he gave that to you. He gave that to anybody who's in the Facebook group for free, so you can download that after you buy it. But yeah,
Cool.
really, really cool.
Bernardo's actually back with a real comment this time, and this is actually something I was thinking of too when I first saw this. He says, "Great work. This is super innovative, and I would love to see it as a Tenyo trick one day. Would you ever?"
You know, it's funny you say that because last year,
Cool.
Imagine if I was talking with John Armstrong, who has put out Tiny Plunger with Tenyo, and he said when I showed it to him, he said it was an early version, but he said I've never said this, but I think you should pitch that to Tenyo, and I was really close to doing that. Um, but my hesitation is because we see Tenyo as like this fun, magic-y kind of toy thing, right? But apparently Tenyo is just like huge, huge in Japan, like outside of the magic world, right? Like there's apparently like street vendors who have Tenyo things, and
Mm,
and I don't necessarily want it outside the Magic community.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that, I mean, it's quite the compliment though, because some of the
Yeah.
most prolific creators and some of the most amazing methods have gone through Tinio. So for it to even be considered or thought about,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah, I was absolutely
yeah,
flattered by that,
yeah, it's
and
really cool.
I really, really heavily considered it.
Cool. Let me see if there's any other questions coming through. I know I got to most of the big ones that we talked about. Ryan wanted to know, quick question, and you just kind of mentioned it with the video. Uh, can you use something that's not just white light? Can you use like other
Yeah.
colors of light? So we,
Yeah, you don't even need to use the phone, right? That's it's a cool way of revealing it, and to me, it's the best way of revealing it. But you don't even have to use the phone. So yeah, it can be white light, it can be blue light, green light, it can be any light. I think white has a really nice contrast to the black acrylic, but
yeah.
yeah, it could be anything. Maybe there's a color that fits your brand, your style. You can totally do that. My friend Zach Evans, who I worked with on Drop Call, when he was working on some of the prototyping things for me, he told me that when he was performing it, he would like do it outside a lot, and he would just take one half, and he would have the spectator take the other half, and just square them up and hold them up to the like the sky and the sun, and so that way you don't even need a phone, right? So, and that's important too, because I don't want this to be considered like a tech trick, because it's not. You don't need a phone. Um, but but yeah, so you can use anything. The other thing you can do is you can kind of do the same thing, but have someone shine a flashlight through the holes and have it projected on a wall
Oh, that's
too.
cool.
Yeah, you can do that too. Um,
Cool.
I stopped doing that because it wasn't as impactful, because this has a really punctuated boom moment, and projected on the wall had more of a, oh yeah, I guess that is 83, right? And so it was more of a slow fade, and it was like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of thing. It wasn't really the moment that I wanted. So I like the phone the best, but it's totally up to you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, the first time I saw the reveal with the light, I'm like, oh, that's good. It definitely it's got it packs a punch. Yeah.
Oh, and I should also give credit. That is actually my father's idea. It was his idea to put it. Well, he said an iPad when I was using the bigger ones, and then when I started using smaller ones, I figured you can use it with a phone too. So full credit to my dad for that, actually.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah,
And yeah, getting some love coming in from Tyler Furious. He's thanking you for everything, really. So
thank you, Tyler.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had questions written down. I've gone through them. You shared more than I ever imagined, which is amazing, and thank you, for
Of
that.
course.
Um, yeah. Anything else you want to say? Anything you've seen on the forums or on social media that you wish people knew, or you know?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I saw is that, just kind of equating it to more of a puzzle than a magic trick. And
Yeah.
the thing I would say to that is, you're right. It absolutely can be more of a puzzle if you don't use your skilled services as a magician to put the magic behind it, right? So at the end of the day, it is a prop just like everything else. But uh, if you aren't the magician behind the prop, this can be more likely seen as a puzzle than maybe other props are. So you still have to make sure that you're framing it as either mentalism or mind reading or influence, like I said, and put that framing behind it so it isn't trivialized to a puzzle.
Well said. And I think that goes with anything. It's up to us to make the tricks that we do, make sense or put it in the context. So he's giving you the pieces here. The rest is up to you. But he's given us one hell of a method, one hell of a trick, and one hell of a reveal. And again, obviously you can't be 1 through 10 because it's a 2-digit number. But
Two-digit number.
the best part about this is any number. It can't be
Yeah.
a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, but any 2-digit number. That's what's amazing with this, that you found a way to make that happen. And that's something that you guys should all remember, because that's freaking awesome. Just crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Well, that's good on my end. So I've had a blast tonight, Luke. So thanks for having me on, man.
It's always a good time with you, Mr. Kyle. Definitely appreciate the time. And I got to give you one of these.
Congratulations!
Congratulations. I'm gonna go on record to predict that this is gonna be in some list somewhere, that this will be in the trick of the year category somewhere, somehow. I know it is. This is too good. It's just too damn good. So I can't wait to the end of the year and we'll see. But I think it'll be there. This is definitely the top of my list. So
awesome, man. Hey, thanks for everything. I really appreciate it.
hey man, thank you for being here. And guys, send some love to Kyle on the way out.